If you follow me through other outlets that aren't just my main channel, then it's no secret that I'm a huge fan of the game Guilty Gear Strive. I love its characters, its gameplay, but the two things this game is known for are its graphics, which are quite fantastic, and its music. Now, the Guilty Gear franchise outside of its most recent entry is no stranger to good music. They even routinely give each character their own theme. But while Strive isn't unique in the fact it gives each character their own theme, it is unique in the fact that each of those themes have lyrics to them. Very impressive for video game soundtrack standards. Not very surprising though, considering how influenced this franchise is by rock and roll. I absolutely adore the soundtrack to this game specifically because of this. And they aren't just nonsense incoherent rock lyrics either. A lot of them have pretty deep meanings heavily tied to the character the song's inspired by. The theme of Soul Bad Guy, Find Your One Way, mostly reads like somebody is debating him, trying to walk on eggshells around him and not upset him in some way. A good representation of how he wants to just be left alone but keeps getting dragged into the main plot. The theme of Leo Whitefang, Hellfire, is about his survivor's guilt and how he masks that with his swagger and braggadocious personality. The theme of ABBA, Symphony, is about her struggling to fit into the world, being an oddball amongst oddballs. The Disaster of Passion, the theme of May, is about her wanting to fuck her dad. A lot of great tracks overall. And while a lot of these are great, and them alone would probably put this game in the upper echelon of video game soundtracks for me, they aren't what inspired me to make this video. That would of course be the theme of Bedman, The Circle. Guilty Gear's The Circle is genuinely what I would consider to be a masterpiece of songwriting and thematic presentation. But to understand the song, we need to understand who the song's about. Enter Bedman, not Bedman, Bedman. This purple-haired having, downvote on head ass, hospital gown having ass is Romeo Newman, the original Bedman. Guilty Gear lore is... Actually, look at this image. This is Guilty Gear lore, and my understanding is it's just not there. So I'll try to break down the relevant details to the song only. Bedman was a character introduced in Guilty Gear Xrd and served as one of the main antagonists of those games. Both he and his sister were born with a rare condition that causes them to be hyper-intelligent, and to handle all of their brain power, they were put into induced comas. So he's basically just in perpetual snooze. Outside of that though, there's not actually a lot we know about him. Most of his details are shrouded in mystery. Like, what's the name of the condition they have? Do other people have this condition? Why is there a question mark at the end of his name in Strive? Romeo's plan and involvement in the story is to fuse the real world with the dream world to potentially give himself and his sister Delilah a chance at having a real life. And in order to achieve this goal, he gets in with some of the wrong crowd, in the form of the main antagonist, William Universal, the same people who gifted him with his high-density bed frame he's known for. The way our sleepy soldier is even able to communicate with the outside world is he has crazy psychic abilities, being able to read the minds of others, trap them in his dream world, even being able to control the mechanical mattress he's nailed to. This is basically who Bedman is as of Xrd, and this bastard is strong too, even being able to beat one of Guilty Gear's most formidable characters, Slayer. But now that you know who Romeo is, I can finally get into the events that set up his theme for the next game. The reason no character is even able to land a finger on this guy is because his abilities in cognitive control. So the people trying to stop him just say fuck it and get somebody who has literally no brain to walk up and explode next to him.
Chicken.
And with this scene, Romeo finally wakes up and due to his rare condition begins to turn to stone. I mean, like, he still regularly dies, but I have no idea why he turns to stone. I'll go into more detail about his death as the song digresses. But now that you know who he is and how he dies, we can properly begin dissecting The Circle. Instead of immediately talking about the lyrics, I want to first talk about the mood this song establishes. Right off the bat, for most Guilty Gear songs, you're pretty easily able to tell what kind of tone they're going to have. Play the Hero starts with this bumping ass electric guitar that immediately starts the energy this song is going to have, and that same tone is kept throughout the rest of the song. The Town Inside Me starts with a chorus of voices and very minimal instruments, setting up the building progression that the song has. Just Lean starts with some pretty mellow and lackadaisical guitar to establish the almost folk song energy it possesses. The intro to pretty much every Guilty Gear Gear song is pretty good at laying the groundwork for the rest of the theme. And this is especially true for all of the other songs that have a bit more of a depressing nature to them. The Gravity begins with an organ, Kiss of Death begins with a really low and heavy sounding electric guitar. Mirror of the World starts with nearly a minute of ambience and very few noises. Every song in Guilty Gear establishes its tone pretty much immediately. Well, this is every song except the Circle. You see, it goes for something way different than any other song in the game. It starts with some pretty angelic chorus yelling the lines, "I see the circle," and then begins the expected guitar lead into the first verse. But very suddenly before it can start, everything just stops. I believe this intro, as well as the sudden stop that follows, is meant to be emblematic of Romeo's death in Exurd. All of this excitement with Robokai blowing up and a big pool cue coming from the sky, and then suddenly, everything's over. With barely any time to process, he loses his unconscious state and dies because of it. But just because he's dead doesn't mean the song is over. The rest of the Circle, I think, is pretty concretely about Romeo's death and journey throughout the afterlife. Let's hit play and see how things progress.
Welcome to the infinite world. What's my end game? There came a zero. Send here, there is a silence everywhere. No peace either. Where there is no beginning and no end. Will I be like that? And yet the words that won't go with the room my head.
Now, there's two major ways this song is interpreted. I'll be touching on the second later, but I'll be looking over this entire song with the interpretation that I believe to be true. From here on, all of the lyrics represent the thoughts and feelings going through Romeo's head while he's dying. As we'll see later, Bedman has a very set-in-stone interpretation of what he believes the afterlife to look like. And these intro lyrics during the break in the instruments show us his first impressions as he's beginning to die, and now he's beginning to acclimate to it. But at the same time, being equally as confused about what he's experiencing. What's my endgame? There came a zero is about his shock that he was even able to be stopped in the first place, finding the value of zero in his plans. I mean, if I got folded by this fucking guy, I'd be upset too. And the words, "Will I be like that?" is him pondering the question of what will become of him now that he's gone. Will he fade away into this void, or is there an afterlife for him? Is this the afterlife? It's with this next line that we get to hear more of his expectations about what he should be seeing in this afterlife. And it comes in the form of him calling out to none other than God himself. These are, of course, all in line with the very Western depictions of heaven, as literally anybody who's heard this song will point out. A radiant light, a beautiful chant, a tender warmth. These are all things he's been conditioned to expect based on his information on the afterlife. But instead,
Nothing here. Pitch black, pure white, all the same. Endless, finite. Copy that.
there's nothing. Literally nothing. Everything he's come to expect from the afterlife and what heaven should look like to him is completely amiss to where he is now. Maybe it's limbo. Perhaps Guilty Gear has its own afterlife system we aren't accustomed to. Maybe this is hell. We don't know, and he sure as shit doesn't know either. Barely even being able to describe where he is now. Simultaneously pitch black and pure white blending into each other, all becoming the same. And I believe the copy that line in here is Romeo trying to regain grips on what is and what isn't. Romeo Newman considers himself to be a very intellectual person. If you've seen a single cutscene of this guy not shutting the fuck up, that should be evident. So in order to reclaim understanding of what's happening around him, he's attempting to take notes on his surroundings with none of them being comprehensible. Which of course then leads us into the chorus. The first line of this should be pretty obvious and is honestly the most self-explanatory part of this whole song. Consuming 10 billion years in an instant, his life is flashing before his eyes. Don't really feel the need to divulge further on that one. The second line, though, is a lot more interesting, and I'll come to you without a second thought. This line, as well as the entirety of the second verse, are about his sister Delilah. There was nothing he cared for more in the world than her. It's part of the reason he was doing any of this from the beginning anyway. You see, Bedman, while he's awake, is actually pretty dang powerful. If he had an extra few seconds, I'm confident he was about to ice the main antagonist. honest. But before he could begin turning to stone for some reason, and in the last moments of his life, he used what little power he had left to grant Delilah a life the two of them could never have. And as the camera pans past his body, we see her standing over what's left of him. I'll get into more about how these lyrics relate to her in that second verse, however. One thing that I really like that this song does is have some of the lyrics be kind of all over the place. Most other songs have a straight through line from beginning to end with their themings, and this one does as well to an extent, but what's being talked about where is kind of all jumbled up. Like at the very beginning of the song, he talks about being on the border of the circle, and then starts the part where he's describing what's around him. It does a very good job of making his thoughts feel very sporadic and unorganized, because, you know, dying and all. I feel that especially with the chorus, because the line, "I'll come to you without a second thought," kind of comes out of nowhere and doesn't make a lot of sense without the context of the next verse. But anyway, to end the chorus, we have the line, I'm here on the border of the circle." What exactly is this circle they keep referencing? I believe that it's supposed to stand for the circle of life. You see, Bedman has a pretty shallow view of human lives. Over the course of the story, killing several people, but not out of malicious intent. He believes that once he creates his perfect world, he'll be able to bring all of them back to life again, even remembering all of their names to guarantee this. He sees life as a circle of living and dying, cementing himself on the border of the circle, implying that he's somewhere beyond those two extremes. Not living or dead, but simply on the line between the two of them, on the border of the circle. After this, we get some banger-ass guitar, which leads us into our second verse.
One after the other, over and over again, I wish a new pendulum.
I believe the first part of this is meant to be in reference to the observations in the afterlife, seeing everything over and over again repeatedly happening, with those happenings beginning to become dull to him. The second part of this, though, I really like. The line, "I watched a new pendulum," didn't really make a lot of sense to me my first dozen listens, but I actually think I've cracked what it's supposed to be saying. It's supposed to be a representation of him watching over Delilah from wherever he is now, which admittedly is pretty easy to put together, but what's the point of the symbolism with the pendulum? Well, what is a pendulum but simply a circle in motion? Sorry I put so much emphasis on that bit, I just felt like a genius after I worked that out. Now this line here actually does a lot at exploring the first interpretation I was talking about earlier, but I think it would be better if I go over this in a minute though. After this, the chorus then repeats saying the same things as last time, like pitch black, pure white, all the same, and that he's now on the border of the circle, but the chorus doesn't quite end the same way as it did last time. I feel this segment is almost an ode to how the song began, screaming the word circle and then having the guitar kick in. I think this is trying to fall back on what the traditional expectation of a circle is meant to represent. Romeo is beginning to feel that he's in a loop, with everything around him being incoherent, with nothing for him to grasp onto. He's beginning to feel like things are looping in a way, which is cemented further when comparing how the word is said at the very beginning and how it is said now. At the beginning, it sounds like it's being said concretely. Like he is sure this is the circle of life and he in fact sees it. But now it's being said with a lot more pain and panic. Like he's entirely unsure of what's even happening anymore. He isn't alive, he isn't dead, the heaven promised him hasn't arrived. Neither has the hell expected for him. He is witnessing everything and nothing. And with this frustration and longing comes my favorite part of the whole song.
God, do you see the radiant light? Do you hear the beautiful chant? Do you feel a tender warmth?
Something I really love about the wording of all of this I didn't bring up with the first time it was said, is that all of these are catering towards a different sense. Seeing, hearing, touch, he's attempting to use his pre-established knowledge of what experience is to gain some kind of understanding of his new circumstance. And this is why he calls out for God again. He's desperate for anything that could possibly let him understand what has happened to him, clamoring in any form of logic or convention that would let him comprehend any of this. On a bit of a side note though, insane shoutouts to Naoki Hashimoto for his performance on this song. Of course, being a vocalist long before Strive, he's expected to be good, and he is for every other song in the game, but damn is he good, especially in this. You can really feel the pain that's supposed to be portrayed in his voice during this. Back to Bedman though, this time his questions don't go unanswered. Something, or someone, responds.
Nothing here but gold. You can see the radiant light. You can feel the beautiful
The voice of who I can only imagine to be God finally answers Romeo, and it is a flagrant denial. Romeo has effectively been denied from heaven. The afterlife he clamored to for understanding is confirmed to him, but only within the context that he won't be going. Romeo for his entire life believed himself to be a good person, but if you really evaluate his actions, it's no wonder he was the main antagonist. I mean, as I was saying earlier, he has killed several people, and now that he himself has died, there will be no retribution for those lives he ended. He thought he was doing a good thing, but his road to hell was paved with good intentions. If the song was going for a more Greek tragedy sort of angle, this is logically just about where it should be ending. But this isn't quite the case for the circle. The voice of God speaks to him one final time before leaving.
If you can give someone something,
Romeo Newman will not be going to heaven, neither will he be going to any afterlife promised to him. But he still has a chance at retribution that isn't through the punishment of hell or the reward of heaven. His only chance to repent now is to give someone something. Give back to the world all that he's taken. And with this, he's no longer seeking an afterlife, but to do the one thing he can do with what little power he has left: protect his sister at all costs. After this line is said, we get some incredibly just angry sounding guitar leading into the final chorus.
no home, no rush, no home. Copy that.
His descriptions have turned from objective truths of what he's seeing into the emotions he now feels of his circumstances. He's neither alive nor dead, so there's no rest for him. There's no longer the hope of heaven for him, and there's no longer a place where he gets to call his own. The soul of Romeo Newman is now possessing the very bed frame that let him interface with the world. Once again, the bed is his only way of making contact with the physical plane. And this new form he's taken also goes back on that line I skipped from earlier, saying that he's broken through the mold of the white and black around him, and that he can only see the world through some kind of eye lens. The same one on that Tempur-Pedic. With his new mission and purpose, he makes a promise to Delilah.
I may not be able to make you smile, but I'll never make you cry, even once, never.
He recognizes that in his incredibly creepy, disheveled, and non-human form, Delilah will never feel the same joy she felt around her brother. But he promises that even if he can't bring her joy, he'll never bring her sadness. He's no longer bound to the same reality anybody else operates in. Not the real world, not the backyard, not the front yard. Despite everything it took in realizing his own mistakes as a person, he's gone outside the circle. The chorus repeats itself again, but ends differently once more, specifically changing the lines where he says he's on the border of the circle, now having a new meaning, saying in a far more reassuring tone that he's there, promising Delilah he'll always be by her side.
I'm here, I'm here.
And with this, the song ends a little anticlimactically, but in a good way. With the tone everything is said in, it makes it sound like something else is going to be said to follow it up, but nothing does. This is the end of Romeo Newman and the beginning of The Bedman. If it wasn't clear by how long I just yapped about this is my favorite theme in the whole game. There are others that are close, A Tenth of Myself, Let Me Carve Your Way, Play the Hero, Smell of the Game, but none of them quite have the same oomph this one does. Of course, all of those other songs have meaning to them, but none of them I feel quite use how the song sounds itself to get across their message. Really, the closest I can think of to anything that does that on the OST is Alone Infection, which incorporates a banjo section. I'm not getting sidetracked! Now, I did mention briefly that there are two interpretations of this theme, so I'll go over the other one now. The other suggests that Romeo isn't possessing the bed, and instead uses psychic powers at the last minute to reprogram the bed to protect Delilah and no part of him exists within it. And there are parts of the song that could potentially suggest this, such as the ending line where he says that I'm here twice. This could alternatively suggest that he was about to say something else, but got cut off due to him finally passing on. I'm also not sure if you want to count this considering she's not a Guilty Gear character and not canon, but Lucy has a unique win quote against Bedman, which is as follows.
Looked like a scrapped bot at first. Far from it. Circuits are lighting up. In this programming, it's next level. Your code's a gold mine. Shame I don't have time to dig.
kind of implying he's just very complex coding and not a ghost in the machine. Perhaps under this new interpretation, it's him finally accepting his place in whatever afterlife he's in now. I think this is a valid interpretation of the circle, but I'm not exactly buying it myself. There's way too much subtext in the game to imply he got FNAF'd. For starters, we know the bed experiences real emotion and complex decision making. In the side story, 40-minute long cutscene following Delilah and Biken, the bed shows up for a little bit attempting to protect her. The whole story isn't exactly too relevant to the song, so I'll be brief. But basically it's about Delilah seeking revenge on the people who killed her brother, which is technically like 4 people and disease, and in her fury accidentally makes a giant energy bomb over a massive village. Over the course of this, we get to see Bedman attempting to protect her from the main characters, which of them, specifically Sin Kisk, is able to level with it, saying that they're trying to help her, and if he wants to help her too, he shouldn't be attacking them, which sparks it to leave and try to help contain the energy sphere. And after the little story movie is over, we get to see the bed lying in the snow alone, with a single tear coming from its face hole thing. If you're wondering how this thing was left in the snow to die at the end of the cinematic, but it's in gameplay with just fine with her, fighting game logic. Not only this, but during Faust's overdrive, bone-crushing excitement, we get to see this thing recoil in pain and snarl its teeth. This thing has teeth. I'm sorry if this is how you had to learn it has teeth. If Romeo truly wasn't possessing the bed, then how can it feel these emotions such as pain and longing? Not only that, but it also screams a bunch of mechanical words during this cinematic, so that's nice. Not only this, but the arcade mode suggests the same thing. Bedman's arcade story is about the bed trying to get away from Delilah and get itself killed, believing Delilah is scared of it, no longer feeling it needs her protection due to Biken looking after her. If this thing was simply programmed to protect her at all costs, why would it be functioning this way? All of this is to say that I firmly believe that my interpretation of the song is probably the correct one, but honestly, I don't really think we're meant to know if Romeo is truly a spirit possessing the bed or not. After all, he does have a question mark in his name. I feel the circle is not only the best theme in Guilty Gear, but one of the best pieces, if not the best song written and produced for a video game. It's managed to move itself up into the upper echelon of just straight up my favorite songs of all time, video game or not. I think the circle, as well as the character of Bedman, is truly beautiful, and I seriously need more people to appreciate them. Guilty Gear is obviously a game all about its music. Hell, most of the characters are named and inspired after real musicians. So Bad Guys modeled after Freddie Mercury, Axl Lowe is Axl Rose, Johnny is Johnny Cash, ABBA is ABBA, even Bedman is one. Romeo and Delilah were the name of 2 of Freddie Mercury's cats. But I truly feel no character is undetachable from their themes like Bedman. Anyway, that's all I've got to say about Guilty Gear for now. I also really love the song Hellfire and want to make a video about that one day, so if you have any interest in seeing that, do let me know. Seriously, if I get enough comments giving me the go-ahead, I'll probably make that one shortly after this one. Guilty Gear has given me brain worms for quite a while, so making this video has given me a good way of venting those feelings. Maybe I'll even make a 5-hour-long Guilty Gear video one day, but that is obviously not soon. Alright, goodbye. I do not know if Romeo is dead or alive until I watch inside the bed.
Countries, cities, nothing more than arbitrary lines that separate high
Shut up.